Hey, what's up, everybody? Well, I got my coffee, got my co-host, and we've
Right.
got episode 5 of Star Wars Vision called The Ninth Jedi. What did we think? What's it about? Well, we're going to talk about it right now.
You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And we're your hosts for this show. And already we've got Ronaldo joining us. He apparently, because we asked in the chat, like, what'd you guys think of episode 5? As you could clearly see if you guys are looking at the chat, and he loves it. So, you know how this thing works, man. Before we like really get into it, let's get some overall thoughts going. While you do that, I'll sip the much needed coffee that I need today. It's been one of those days.
I hear you, man. What did I think? It was okay.
And it's like it's Visions. So I mean, yeah, I think that,
this one was a little bit, better than, the other ones, and it's getting progressively better. Cool story. No, I'm just joking. This thing was pretty cool. I can't hide it. Yeah, this is actually a really, really good episode. I really enjoyed this one. Finally, we got some context in the very beginning, which I loved.
I know.
Finally.
Context is a beautiful thing.
It is.
I mean,
man.
It just, it's one of those things.
Don't underestimate the power of context.
Yes. So. I mean, it's an amazing thing what happens when you actually get some context, you understand what's going on. They're not just dropping you in this strange world, and then half the episode is figuring out what's going on.
Exactly. So you can't even really enjoy the cool stuff about it because you're like, what the heck is this even? But yeah, no, this was a really, really cool story. I loved a lot of different things that they brought into this. The animation was super cool. Now see, this is the type of stuff I can get into. Like, I could get into this type of anime. If they did stuff like this, I'm all for it. I thought it was a unique story. It kind of gave me High Republic vibes, honestly.
Yeah, it did.
That's what it kind of gave me High Republic vibes. If this was like a series or something, if that was a series, I should say, instead of a comic. But yeah, my overall thoughts, really, really great job.
Yeah, I mean, I'll mirror those. It's funny because, hey, Dwight's with us. Hey, Dwight.
Dwight.
So now we got Dwight and Ronaldo. Now the show could officially begin, right?
Right. Yes. The doctor's in.
Yeah, well, Dwight, basically, I'm acting like I can't put these comments up. Right? Of like reading what they are to people. He says, I thought this would be the one Daryl would like.
He knows me well.
Yeah, well, and again, Ronaldo, let's not discount Ronaldo, too. He's actually
the one who championed the whole Visions thing in the first place.
Yeah, he's been championing the thing in the first place, and he pointed out episode 7 and episode 5. And then, look at this. We got Lee Powell joining us tonight.
Lee, what's going on, sir?
So
you got the usual scoundrels.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what, and that's good. And I also really like it when there's a decent amount of people, because then you can have a real discussion. And this show,
right,
being that we've notoriously had mixed feelings about this one, but I have to say this one though, yeah, because I've been watching. It's funny because we started watching this stuff. I actually decided to try to maybe I would watch some more anime, right? And I ran into on Netflix, they have Ultraman. They have like a new Ultraman series that's really cool. And of course, I grew up with the 1960s Ultraman and Johnny Sacco and all that. And I love that. But man, I gotta say, this Ultraman anime is just amazing. It's, 3D animation. It kind of has a Clone Wars type of vibe, or a Rebels or anything like that. But I mean, it's really, really cool. So I recommend that. But I agree. I think that this is definitely the direction they should go if they were going to continue this series. I thought the animation was really good, really vibrant, and it reminded me of the anime that I really like. This
Yeah.
is the kind of stuff that I generally fall into. Now, again, if you go back to the first episode, the one you really didn't like.
The one looked like it was done like in someone's sketchbook. Yes. I
Yeah,
remember.
but there's definitely an anime style that is pretty much, I mean, it's a little bit different in a way, but it's pretty much like that. And I kind of like that sort of ethereal, yeah, almost sketchy type of a thing. Sketchy meaning in a good way, though. But yeah, I thought that the story was just amazing. I thought the twist was incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I about just like,
yeah.
I just jumped out of my skin. So before we actually start to go a little bit more in depth into this, I want to get to some of these chats. So Ronaldo, of course, says, I knew you would like this. It's all right. You know what, Ronaldo, you can gloat about this one because I wasn't so sure, but
Yeah, he could pat himself on the back with this one.
you were right, man. What can I say? So now Dwight says, question, would you guys like Visions if it was a multi-season kind of thing, not canon, but what if type? And so I know what he means. It's kind of like instead of an anthology or like these individual episodes that are done by different studios, and they could still be done by different studios, but if it was more cohesive, and I think we did bring that up on one of these shows where we said that if they did do something along those lines, that we would actually be more into it.
Yeah, I think a season of this would be cool. Like I said, a lot of kids are really big into anime, and even a lot of adults are really, big into anime as well. So I think it's a genre worth exploring, and I think you should, if you have great stories that you can tell out of this, but that, like you said, they don't have to be canon, then yeah, that would be awesome. Because then it gives kind of people a chance to kind of let their mind wander a little bit, and I think that would be awesome for those who are true hardcore anime fans. Um, like I said, this particular episode was really, really sweet. I like the way they started it off. Like you said, the animation was vibrant. Um, the plot was amazing, and then like you said, I wasn't even expecting the twist to be in this thing, but that was cool. That was a surprise. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot
yeah,
of really cool things about this. And then Lee says, yes, it is. I have seen it as well. Ultraman, that is, and of course the Vision series. Yeah, the Ultraman series really kind of shocked me because, again, I kind of grew up with it. Now, I know that they had all these different Ultraman series, some live action, other ones were animated, and it was kind of crazy. But Lee also says, I would love a what if vibe for Visions. And that's really where I think the future of that series should go. More like in the style of the Marvel what if.
Marvel stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, if you're not going to make it canon and you make this obvious and you even call it like a Star Wars what if, I mean, you might as well, right? They're both owned by the same company. Disney
Yeah,
owns
so
Marvel and Star Wars.
Yeah, so you're not jacking some of the other company's thing.
Right, exactly. So you could do it. I mean, it's not a problem.
Now, what if they did something like this, though? So
I see what
along
you
that
did there.
line,
What if?
yes. um. So how people sound like, okay, well, what if Luke went to the dark side, right? But there was a storyline where that actually kind of happened. That's in the old expanded universe,
Right.
type stuff.
The Dark Horse
So what I'm saying,
series,
yeah, exactly. So what if they took those stories that's already been created and just made them into a series?
Well, I've been saying that for years. I mean, when you and I have talked about Star Wars, I think that was actually one of the, I mean, first there was, hey man, how you doing? My name's Daryl. Oh, I'm Eric. And it was like, oh, you like Star Wars? Yeah, I like Star Wars. And then probably the next thing out of my mouth was, you know what? They should take a lot of these existing comics and novels and make movies or animated series or whatever about them. That's how strong I feel about it.
Yeah.
Because
no, you're absolutely right though. But I mean, I think that would be real. I mean, we've always talked about like some of the stuff in the expanded universe coming into or making it canon, like using Vong series and stuff like that.
Sure.
But I'm talking about even the more obscure stuff. that's kind of like, people really like the using Vaughn thing was kind of a big thing. Thrawn was a big thing, what I'm saying?
Right?
But what I'm saying is if you kind of find one of those um really kind of almost less popular or less known stories, you can take those and kind of make those into like
Well, but
those
think
what
about
ifs.
it. It's all less known to everybody now.
Well, yeah, at this
I'll
point.
give you one though. I'll give you two. I'll give you two novels from the expanded universe that do not involve Thrawn and don't involve, any of the big ones that would probably make a really good animated movie. One of them was a book called I, Jedi,
Oh yes, I
and it
remember that one.
basically followed some like Jedi. I don't even remember it. I kind of remember the character, and I remember he had a lightsaber blade that could change lengths, which was, of course, brought up in
Mm-hmm.
the
In
episode
this one,
5. Yeah,
right?
which it kind of called back to that, which I somewhat wonder. Probably not, but I do kind of wonder if that was, somebody read that book. But that would be one book that would really be cool because that one, unlike a lot of the other ones, didn't involve any of the main characters at all. It was all
Mm-hmm.
about this Jedi. He was kind of similar to like the Mandalorian in a way, where he was just sort of going off and
That
on
wasn't
these
Kyle
things.
Katarn, was it?
No. It wasn't. He wasn't even a known. I don't think he was a known guy. Like I'm trying to think if he's known now. I actually don't remember his name offhand, but it wasn't one of the main type characters. He was a new character that was invented for that. That would be one. The other thing that I would suggest, if you want to go a little bit off the beaten path kind of a thing, is the
Mhm.
Courtship of Princess Leia. For years, I had avoided reading that book because it just screamed young teen romance novel to me. But it wasn't. Because what it was it was about, if I remember correctly, and then we'll get more into the interview because everybody's like, what are they talking about? I thought they were reviewing Visions. It was basically this like prince or something that was promised, or Leia was promised to this guy. And then, of course, her being involved with Han, and then it was this whole, like, she had to make a deal to marry this guy in order to either save somebody or, I don't know. It was something like that. But that would actually really make a really good one. Lee says, exactly, that would be awesome. I would love to see what would happen if the Jedi Order actually beat Palpatine. And that would be a good what if. Or, going into what we were talking about Friday, what if Leia were the one that were trained? What if she were the one that went up against Vader and Palpatine? See, that would actually be a really cool one. We got Ronaldo saying the lightsaber twist is something from Legends, I think. Yeah, I Jedi. You'll see, because I know that generally speaking, from the actual live thing, like when it comes out of our mouth to when it comes to everybody else's device, is about 20 seconds. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, okay, that might have been the one. But yeah, man, let's get into this a little bit. So
yeah, this whole thing kind of opens up with a really cool first, like I said, I just love context, and that was one of my biggest things. So it kind of gave us, as we're kind of walking into this particular episode, it's basically taking place years after the Jedi. They pretty much have been I don't want to say extinct, but they're pretty much like not been around.
their light has gone out of the universe.
And so like there's a lot of people who are kind of like hearing different things, and I guess this beacon kind of went out to certain force users, and it was basically calling to this one particular place to basically receive a lightsaber because they were all force sensitive or had Jedi potential. But the other side of it too was that you also have some of these almost like Jedi, oh, not Jedi, but Sith acolytes who were trying to kind of thwart that. And we kind of find different ships approaching this weird kind of island looking planet, which kind of ironically, like when it's flipped upside down, because they did that a lot too, when they flipped the planet upside down, it kind of looked like a lightsaber itself because it had the like beam of light coming through it.
Yeah, and it
And it
wasn't.
was
I wasn't entirely sure if that was different things, like if that was actually the planet itself that they were landing on, or if that was the temple, and then the planet was.
Yeah, the
Oh,
temple. Well, the temple. Yes, it was a temple, but the planet was beneath it, and that's where they were mining it for kyber crystals.
right, that's where the
And
father was.
yeah, and so we kind of go down to the planet, and we see. Well, actually, before we get to the planet, you see everybody's kind of meeting up at this one little area inside the temple, and everybody's kind of like we're here for the same thing. Everyone kind of shows their beacon. Kind of had that whole Mandalorian thing when they all kind of had that the little puck with all the different bounties on it. So they played this video, and he's pretty much kind of delivering the speech saying like, yeah, you guys were selected and chosen to come to this area and receive a lightsaber, one of the oldest Jedi weapons, and there's a war coming, or there's something that's coming, and we want to have you guys prepared and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, cool. Now we go down to the planet surface, and there's this saber-smith basically, which I thought was kind of cool.
Well, before we get to that, even, because I think the best thing to do, one of the things I liked about this episode too, as far as a discussion type of a thing, is you can literally break it up into chunks. It's really easy to talk about it because it's almost like you get a scene, then you get the next type of scene, and it follows somewhat of a linear thing. Because one of the things I thought, it was Margrave Churro. I've been trying to remember these names. That actually sent out the call, right? So obviously, like you say, he's trying to rebuild the Jedi Order or whatever. But what I thought was really odd about this, and I thought it was kind of cool actually, is this did something different from any of the other stories that have been done where the Jedi have all but gone extinct. And this is including the original trilogy. Is that the Jedi have disappeared to such a degree that even their lightsabers are practically extinct, right? Like, it's a big deal to even find it. Like, even the lightsaber has disappeared. Yeah. And, as we'll see later on, when they actually see it, and they're igniting it for the first, just like, they're just blown away by this. And I thought that was actually a really nice touch, that they went so far as to even make the weapon almost extinct. Like, the Jedi are really basically gone. Because, they put out this call, and there was only like 7 of them that were going to respond. So, because, for a long time, too, I was trying to figure out, why is this thing called the Ninth Jedi? And I knew that the girl was going to be the 9th, but then I'm thinking, well, who's the 8th? And I'm like, oh, it's probably Margrave Jurro. He's the 8th. Calls out to 7 other Jedi that, are actually responding. And then that would make her eventually, when it would come to pass, the 9th. But I just thought I want to point that out because I thought that was a really cool thing that they did.
Oh yeah, definitely. I really like the fact that they all kind of were, and I love the conversation that they had.
The conversation was phenomenal.
The conversation they had was great because they were kind of saying, and it was kind of a humbling thing when they were talking about, like, okay, well, you guys kind of just showed up, but how do you know you're not walking into a trap? Maybe you think you're so good in the Force that you're not worried about anything. Maybe you just came up here just to get a lightsaber, like, and it was just kind of cool.
Maybe you're an early riser. Well,
right.
Little Few Good Men reference. But actually, even further than that, that whole scene kind of played out to me sort of like an Agatha Christie and Then There Were None, or, like a Knives Out, or, it was almost like a, the group, the typical mystery thing where, Murder on the Orient Express, like anything like that. But really more like And Then There Were None, or even the comedy series Murder by Death. It was like a comedy movie that sort of spoofed And Then There Were None. But basically it's a whole thing where you invite a group of strangers or seeming strangers to a remote location, and the host is basically, probably challenging them to something or whatever, and you find out later on that they're connected somehow, And then, of course, they start getting murdered one by one or whatever. Now, of course, that wasn't really the case here. But what I did find really interesting was it had that kind of vibe. It had that kind of setup, which, again, is something else we really haven't seen in Star Wars.
Yeah, definitely. And
That's
so,
it? Yeah, definitely. I
do
say
you have a
all
problem
this
with
stuff, and all you have is, yeah, definitely. Now can I move on with what I wanted to say?
I've learned not to argue with you. All
Yeah,
right?
there you go. That's it.
But,
It's like, yeah, just...
but no, I mean, I think that, that whole conversation was really great. And it just kind of put things into a lot of perspectives for people, because it kind of caused them to pause a little bit, like, yeah, why am I here? Now you could kind of see, like, no one was really anxious to answer that question.
Well, the other cool
And
thing, and that's a really good point, actually. This is one of the first times where people, because usually in something like this, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, well, I got this beacon, I'm answering the call or whatever. Nobody usually questions it. These guys are kind of like, yeah, why? what do these people want,
yeah. And so, then we kind of eventually, traverse down to the planet surface, and, we actually see the blacksmith or the sabersmith, doing his thing where he's taking kyber jewels and forging them into lightsabers, and he's kind of completing the last one. And he's like, man, I can't believe I got it all done. He ignites one, and it's just like, even he's just still like kind of like in awe and amazement, like, man, like these things are real, and they're going to be in real people's hands soon.
These guys are having the exact reaction we all did when we first saw it. Like, wow, man, these things are actually pretty sweet.
Right. I mean, everybody just wants one at that point.
Well, I thought it was really funny too, because something I didn't touch on, and actually neither did you really in the overall review, but this would be a good time to start bringing it up, I think, is that there were some comedy moments in this thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That I thought were hilarious. And that was, even though with the sabersmith guy, it was a little bit subtle, I thought it was really funny. It was like, wow, I can't believe I got this done in time.
Right.
Because that's exactly what we would all probably be saying. Because, I mean, think about it. It's like building 7 lightsabers.
Yeah, and you see how long it takes, a Jedi to build one. So just to build 7 in the amount of time in which he needed it, it's kind of impressive. But the other thing I did notice, I don't know if you picked it up, and guys, if you guys look at this picture, doesn't this look a lot like Dooku's?
Yeah. It also gave me dark saber vibes too.
Well, that part was cool too, but
even though I know, I mean, it's really
Yeah.
more the whole thing that, and again, this is actually exploring some things that aren't necessarily canon, but they probably should be. Like, one of the things that I took away from this episode was, even though it wasn't necessarily a canonical thing, I thought, this is a better explanation about certain aspects of the lightsaber than what we've gotten. Like, I like the idea that, okay, when it gets in the hands of a Jedi, now this was somewhat started to make its appearance in comics, I think like last year or something, but where the crystal kind of almost binds with the Jedi in a way, and the color is determined. Remember, we actually did I don't know if we dedicated a whole show. That might have still been when we were doing segments, but I remember we did a lot of discussion on that. And I really like the way they handled it here, too.
Well, the thing I thought that was interesting from what's considered canon, and it's only a slight difference, but a difference nonetheless, is that usually, the Jedi find their own crystal,
Right.
and then when they get the crystal, they actually kind of connect with it, and then they insert the crystal, and then that's when you get the color. This time, the crystal was already in the lightsaber, and in the midst of fighting and using the Force, then it started to change the color.
Well,
So I thought that was just a little subtle difference.
I mean, in a way, that was really the case with her because she hadn't fully made her connection to the Force yet. Because if you remember, when the other Jedi got, particularly that one Padawanish kid, it ignited right away, and it was a color.
We'll get to that in a minute. But
yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later. But it was one because again, and this is like a further into the story thing, but when she did finally make her connection, it did turn a color. But you're right, that was a little bit of a spin on that, which I thought was really, really cool. And I also thought that it made sense, and especially if you take it in the context of this world that they're in, because remember, they're not going to necessarily do it in the way the Jedi used to, simply because they've been gone for so long. But that I thought was a really interesting take on it.
And you get to see how powerful this little girl is. I mean, when they eventually kill, these Jedi, almost like I was about to say like they're almost like inquisitors, but they're kind of like acolytes in a way.
They are.
But
That's what they were.
Yeah, they kind of came down, wiped out the dad. Well, the dad kind of
they tried
to hold him off, really, pretty much, and then they kind of took him and put him into captivity. But as the little daughter was, running away, she was actually on the speeder, and it gave me like those flashes of Endor. Those four.
I was gonna say, man, we got to talk about the speeder chase thing, because that
the speeder chase,
that was some spectacular action. And if you think about it, how powerful do you have to be to ride this thing backwards?
That's what I was getting at.
Be like deflecting stuff. She's still somehow piloting this thing. I'm like, how are you even doing this?
Exactly. And that's why I was so glad when that guy was like, man, the Force is really strong with this girl. I was like, okay, thank you. Acknowledge that, please, because there's no other way this girl can do all this. So I thought that was pretty sweet. And of course, she eventually disarms her assailant.
Which it was so cool. Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminded me, like you said, of the Endor thing, right? To where she kind of, but I mean, it's the way that it was done. And that's another thing that I can probably point out now, even though it'll be even more relevant on some of the scenes later. But it's the brutality of this episode, too. They did not hold back.
Not at all.
I mean, there was a lot of really brutal type scenes, but not for the sake of just being brutal. I mean, it was well done. So, like, when she hops off the bike or whatever, and she just, slashes at the guy's thing, and it was just really, really well done, I thought.
Yeah. Then, of course, here comes some more comedy, right? So she pulls up to this little, I guess, this little station or whatever. And, these little droids are just kind of like taking a break. And one is like supposed to be drinking coffee like Eric's doing right now. And
was that actually that, or was he like smoking something? Because it kind of looked like a bong.
Well, he was pouring something into a cup.
Yeah, but I mean, it was like, right, it was kind of a liquid, but then he was sort of like, and I think they were called smoke droids.
Who knows?
Hey, man, I thought that was pretty hilarious, actually.
Well, the way he was moving, he was like he was high because he was so slow. So, that was one of the things that she was like, okay, look, I really need to get up there to the temple. Can you get me there? And he's like, look, man, I'm on a break.
It totally reminded me of, what was that one droid in Rebels that, like that kind of Death Star droid? That was like the one that I called the Patrick droid.
The one that was getting into it with Chopper.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that one. I don't remember the name of it, but
I don't remember the name of them, but that's kind of the whole attitude and vibe of that droid reminded me of.
Yeah.
That one.
It's kind of crabby. Yeah. But
he's all moving slow and she's like trying to push him and stuff. That was awesome.
Yeah, man. That was just priceless. So they finally get to the temple, or what have you, and then of course, they're like, well, now the thing is that these 7 have been kind of sitting there waiting for a while, and they're trying to figure out, like, okay, well, who is this, Margrave guy, and is he really real? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Like,
well, let's not forget too, though, there was that other droid, that big droid that was kind of almost like his butler or something, right?
Yeah.
At least that's what you're led to believe. So it's kind of like they were kind of going back and forth with him too, that I thought was cool.
Yeah, and they were just really trying to get. They were really pestering them, like, "All right, look, we've been up here for a while. We haven't gotten his lightsabers. Like, what's really going on here?" They were feeling the tension, but they couldn't make out really what was heads or tails of what was going on. And so when when the little girl shows up, she's like, "Hey, look, you know, I got these lightsabers. You guys, um, I need." These guys kidnapped my dad. I need you guys to go rescue him. Um, I really need you guys' help. So they all take the sabers, and of course, these are all lightsabers that haven't been connected to a master yet. And then they all ignite, and they're all crimson, crimson blades.
Yeah, and the little Padawanish dude's just like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that I think was interesting, and that's kind of the big twist, right? You find out, oh crap, they're all Sith acolytes. What was funny though was the fact that with the whole setup with the Margrave thing and that droid, it really felt like the twist was going to be, okay, this guy was trying to bring all the Jedi together, but really he's a Sith Lord and he's betraying them. And he's going to try to, fight him, right? That's kind of what you're led to believe through the whole episode. And they even set that up in that beginning narration thing or whatever, where it's kind of like, okay, well, they're trying to round up all the Jedi, but then there's these forces of darkness that are trying to stop them or whatever.
Yep.
So up until then, you're under the impression that, yeah, these guys are going to get betrayed. You better be ready for a battle. So when they get their lightsabers, they ignite them and they're all red. Now you're like, oh, no way. I remember just freaking out when I saw that. I'm like, whoa. I had a Ted from Bill and Ted moment, on that one.
But then, and the cool thing was, Margrove kind of came out of that little droid. He's like, well, I've been amongst you guys the whole time. I just had to figure out, I was just like, another twist. Like, wait a minute. And then I'm thinking he's the bad guy because he just looks freaky. He looks like Dr. Doom or something, walking around.
Oh, I know. Well, that was the thing. He kind of had that Sith kind of vibe. You didn't really, because once those blades ignited red, I started, and then he popped out. I'm like, okay, is it really that little Padawan dude that was trapped or something? Is he getting ambushed? Is this guy really their leader? I mean, you really didn't know where they were going with this, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah, that was beautiful storytelling, beautiful writing, beautiful setup, all of it. That was really good. And then, of course, now, we see that, Margrove takes his own lightsaber and it's green. His even has a weird little halo circle around it at the base, almost like a foil, like a fencing foil. And yeah, man, we get us a nice full-on lightsaber duel now with all these guys, going against Margrove.
Well, especially that first one, Margrave just basically that little walrusy dude just hacked him in half, and it's kind of like he's just dispatching with most of those guys. But then there was that one dude where he starts unleashing red lightning on him. Now, the thing that I found interesting about that, again, I know this is not a canon-based series in any way, shape, or form, but if you remember, one of the things that we had learned was that the red lightning was even more powerful than what Palpatine or any of those guys would unleash, the more bluish lightning. So when I first saw that, I started thinking ooh, this guy's in trouble.
But it was weird because he kind of was shooting green lightning at him back, which was kind of weird.
Well, it was sort of I think that was more of a reflection back. I think because he was obviously absorbing, he was kind of doing a little bit of a Yoda thing in that, but it seemed like when it was coming back, it would come back green, which again, this is the kind of thing I would really like to see. It makes sense. I'm not going to get off on a tangent. I'm not going to lose my mind or my cool or anything like that, but it makes sense. If a Jedi is absorbing this lightning and he's going to shoot it back, it would make sense that it would have some of the properties of the light side of right. See, that's why I was kind of like, finally.
Someone hurt you, man.
I guess.
And so I thought this was really, that was really cool. I mean, the whole battle just was like amazing. And then, in the midst um of the duels, um, you start to see her blade start to change colors and eventually turn green. And yeah, once it turned green, like she was really like going to town on people too. She started hacking up folks left and right as
Oh,
well.
dude, she was just like,
Yeah,
she was amazing. I mean, it was funny too because she had like all this obvious pent up
aggression
and skill, and what was really hilarious, and it was probably one of the funniest things, where that one droid was just kind of smoking his coffee or whatever it was.
Yeah,
he's like,
watching
oh,
it like,
nice move. He's just all watching it like he's just watching a movie or something, and just kind of enjoying his little refreshment, shall we say, and just kind of chilling, watching this whole thing unfold, which is priceless.
Yeah, man, and she's kind of, in a way, she's kind of what I wanted Leia. I mean, not Leia, but Rey to be.
Exactly. Oh man, I was just about to say that. It's like you reached into my mind and pulled it. You did a Kylo on me, man. Because that's exactly what I was thinking. This is what Rey should have been. Yeah. And it would have made sense. And honestly, if it was done in this way, because again, you didn't need all kinds of crazy backstory. Nobody's wondering, who this girl's, or Kara, I think her name is. Nobody's wondering who her dad was. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, that was the thing that really bothered me, I think, about the sequel trilogy, is that it made you somehow try to connect all these characters in a more relationship type of a way. Somebody's got to be somebody's father or mother or whatever. Who are Rey's parents? Who cares? Now, don't get me wrong, that little Palpatine twist I thought was actually kind of interesting. Because it's like, well, what would happen? You had the spawn of Vader basically remaining on the light side. So it's almost like Vader's power, but light side. What would happen if Palpatine had spawned somebody and they were a light side person? So from that standpoint, I thought it was cool, and I kind of thought that her trying to, hold on to the ship, and then she accidentally unleashes this whole big lightning thing and fries it. I'm like, that was actually kind of cool. But for the most part, it's like you said, I really like the way they handled this. I like Kara's character. I like the way they handled the whole thing. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, definitely. Then,
well, go ahead.
I'm just saying they kind of basically ends with, of course, they're victorious, and then now, he's like, I wish I could have been in, he's like, Margaret was like, I wish I could have been there to save your father, but I kind of had to worry about this here. And, he said, well, they just took him. So can you help me find him? He's like, well, sure, we'll go get him. And then I believe they were looking for the actual 7 Jedi. They were actually supposed to show up. And then they show up at the very end.
Well, they basically, he said that because we had said that the 7 Jedi or whatever, some of them were killed or something, and they wanted to hang around to see who was left. But then don't forget about that other guy he basically was actually a good guy. Yeah, but he was consumed by their dark side. It looked purple to me.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had him too. Yeah.
But the thing that was so funny to me about that scene was he's all like fighting the little Padawan type dude, right? And then all of a sudden his blade turns from red to purple, and he's like, oh, I was consumed by the dark side. I apologize. He just kind of goes on. I'm like, really? That's it.
Tidied up pretty quick. Huh?
You're just kind of like, yeah, dude, my bad. Sorry about that. Dark side.
Got a little
carried away. Sorry, I almost cut you in half with my blade and overtook you and ended your life. But you know how it goes. Dark side. I thought that was. I don't know if they intentionally put that there, because I know in anime a lot of times they will do a lot of subtle humor like that. But
well, they did that too, also to explain Mace.
Oh, right. Yes, because the whole light and dark kind of
Yeah,
thing, and it
that was
turned
a, that was a
purple,
Mace,
and
and it turned purple, and
yeah, all
that
right,
was to kind of a plug at Mace Windu. So I thought that was sweet.
that was sweet. I'm one of those guys who really hopes they find a way to bring Mace back into the whole thing, even if it's telling stories, before he ended up being allegedly killed.
Fricazeed out the window.
Yeah. Well, it shouldn't surprise you. We got a lot of chats.
Oh yeah.
But I basically wanted to go, and they're even chatting with each other. It's awesome. But
yeah, they don't even need us.
They don't even need us. It's like, these guys are interrupting me. But actually, I just wanted us to get through our whole view, our synopsis, our feelings, before we actually turn this over to the discussion. So, Ronaldo's going to kick us off. He says, the fact that lightsabers are rare makes sense within the narrative. And that, I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those.
If there's no Jedi, then why would you have lightsabers around? I mean,
well, but the thing is that even, and this is where it's a little bit different, I think, in between, say, like Episode 3, when Order 66 came around and they just hunted them all down and they were all but extinct. You still had them around, and I mean, people were buying lightsabers in the black market and stuff like that. But I think that, because they don't really tell you how much time has passed or where in this. That's the one bit of context we never really got, actually, is what era is this? And in a lot of cases, it sort of transcends that anyway, A lot of these episodes do.
Yeah. This was...
oh, you're looking something up, aren't you?
Well, yeah,
you kind of had that I'm looking something up face, and I could see the computer screen reflecting, It's like, all right, I know what's going on. You're just going to try to pretend, though, like it's coming from you. Like, yeah, I think, meanwhile, your fingers are dancing on the keyboard.
So it says, during or after about 35 years after the Battle of Yavin.
Really?
Yeah.
They actually give that kind of information about these episodes?
Yep.
Where'd you find that?
I saw it. Good old Wikipedia.
Oh, I should have known. All right, well, anyway, Dwight says, that would have been my cause for hesitation. How do I know a Jedi sent this message out? Exactly.
Oh, yeah, Dwight questions everything.
Well, I mean...
But understandably so, though. I mean, I get it.
Because here's my thing.
Him, he's not usually wrong when he does.
So. Well, and it's not even... It's one of those things that... And this is one of the problems I've always somewhat had whenever they use this particular storyline, because they have used this in various formats in the past. Somebody sends out a beacon. Usually it's to call a Jedi. The Jedi comes running. Now, granted, you can always say, well, because of their nobility, they would rather err on the side of caution and assume it's a legitimate distress call or whatever and risk harm to themselves rather than ignore it to save themselves, and somebody could legitimately be in trouble. I get that. On the other hand, this is not that. This is somebody just going, yeah, I'm just trying to find the Jedi and rebuild the Order. Everybody come. It's kind of like, well, who is... I would want to vet that out a little bit more, I think, before I went running.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, and the interesting thing about this is that you can't really do that. It's kind of one of those, because you got to think about, like, okay, there's no Jedi. It's not like you can call, like, a headquarters, like, hello, Jedi, temple. Hi, yeah, I got this beacon, and I was wondering
Google
if this is legit. So
whatever
it's not like you can really do.
Well, no, but I mean, but the thing is, you could kind of hover the planet, maybe do some scanning. I mean, granted, how do we know they didn't do it, right? But obviously, here's the thing that kills me about that. Their whole distrust. They land, they're just kind of waiting around, and then they start questioning it.
Well, that's what I love, because when he first walked in, he said, you guys are masterless Jedi as well. and so it's like, yeah, we're all got the beacon. We're all trying to figure this thing out. So it's like, okay, that adds legitimacy to it, at least to some degree, because it's like, all right, at least it's not just me. Like, I'm not the only one out here that's just looking dumb. Like, at least there's 6 other
Right.
guys.
You're like the
out
one
here.
guy, like everybody else is like, really, dude? No, I'm not
Like,
answering this, but you're that guy that was like, oh, I'll come running. I mean,
right. And now you got punked, basically.
exactly. Well, then you would
But-
basically deserve it, right?
Right. But then on the flip side of that, well, not on the flip side, but also to continue with that, it's like, all right, you got to think about it too. You have this ability that you have no real direction on how to use it. And if you really think about it, now that we know the actual full story of it, these guys knew what they were there for in the first place. They were Sith, acolytes at least. So they already knew. They were just waiting on whoever else was going to show up.
Yeah, they were thinking that other Jedi would show up. And of course, what was cool was the Margrave dude he kind of had his suspicions, but because he knew that those Jedi were killed, like the ones that he actually invited were killed. So he wanted to see, okay, well, how many were going to be real Jedi and how many were Sith? He had to sort of figure that out.
He was the one doing the vetting.
Yeah.
So.
All right, that makes sense. All right, so Ronaldo says, I've always loved that the color of the lightsaber reflects the personality of the user. Me too. When you learn how close a Jedi or Sith is to their lightsaber, it makes perfect sense. That was one of the things that I thought they actually, when they made that little change in the whole canon, I thought that really was a good thing. I thought it made a lot of sense. Dwight adds that saying, maybe also the sabers remain blank because he does not know who will be wielding it. I guess that would only be if you believe each color is supposed to mean something different. And yeah, I know there was that whole thing. I remember there was somebody, I don't remember. I don't remember how official this was, but somebody put out some sort of a guide about what each color, like the Guardians usually use this one color, and then
Gold.
Knights. Yeah, and they had all those like different, like basic different classifications of Jedi and what color they used. But what I found interesting though was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't when he was basically forging that last kyber crystal, it had a color to the crystal. But then because the thing is that when it binds with the Jedi, it can change colors according to whatever, I guess the personality or purity or specialness or whatever, the Jedi. It's kind of weird because, again, this is something that even though they've been trying to rein it in a little bit, they keep playing with it. Depending on, granted, they haven't really done things in a long time. I'm interested to see, as I'm moving on in the High Republic, how they're going to handle some things on that end.
Yeah. Well, just to answer that other question though, as far as the colors, just for those who may be at home trying to figure this out, green is a peace through the Force when necessary. These are usually those who prefer negotiation, but also have strong Force abilities, like Luke, Yoda, Qui-Gon. Of course, we know red is evil and power. The Sith Lords. Blue, justice and protection. Jedi Guardians who fight on the light side and are skilled lightsaber warriors, Kenobi, Anakin. Purple, moral ambiguity. Jedi who use both light and dark techniques with an aggressive style. The purple color may be interpreted as a mixture of blue and red. Mace Windu, Mara Jade. Yellow, intrigue and pursuit. Jedi Sentinels who seek and destroy the dark side. The activities are closer.
Sentinels. That's what I was trying to think of.
Are closer to espionage. Yarel Proof and Plo Koon. Orange, which is a rare one, is negotiation. Also used by the Sentinel class who prefer stealth and ingenuity to combat. Also used by Yaddle. Gray, calm and clear. Used by those who remain calm and focused on the living force. That would be more of like an Ahsoka. And black, self-obsession. used by those controlled by self-obsession, and it's also called the dark saber pre-Vizsla.
All right.
So there you have it.
There you have it. So Ronaldo says, by the way, if I lived in the Star Wars universe, I would be the transport droid. I feel you on that one. I wouldn't let anyone bother me on my break time. Then he said that droid was snoking something. Let's see. He lost his mind and so yeah, Ronaldo says he wants a sequel to the episode. Dwight was like, he cut him in half with his own blade. It turned red to green once he took it. Yeah, the blade did. I remember, I think when we were talking about that, though, we were talking about more of the lightning attacks, but yeah. This is a good one, too. Ronaldo says, I think the director and writer of this episode also worked on that Ultraman series. That's interesting. Maybe that's why I like it so much. Because I'm telling you, the Ultraman series is on Netflix right now. And it's really good. And what's cool is that it actually starts out with a nod a little bit to the old series where Hayata was Ultraman. And it's like, it's his son because Hayata he's older and then he ends up fighting this monster or whatever. And he gets somewhat critically wounded and then his son has to take over. And it's about how his son's learning to step into the whole identity of Ultraman, and it's really well done. I mean, I was really shocked by it, honestly. I thought it was just fantastic. Then Ronaldo also says that was a bit quick, but considering the color of his lightsaber and how long the episode lasts, I think it worked. And yeah, I mean, I understand it's one of those things that I think this is actually the longest of the episodes that we've seen, though. Because it clocked in at something like 26 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely a longer episode, but it's true. There were certain things that they did have to step through it kind of quick, right? Like you didn't really have a whole lot of time to build up either a part of the plot or the characterizations or anything like that. But one of the things that I applaud these people for is the fact that they were able to do it in the short amount of time that they did it, and it didn't feel rushed to me.
Yeah.
I mean, that was basically the thing.
Yeah, they definitely moved through the story at a nice pace. And that's one thing I always, love about, a good Star Wars show, whether it's a TV show or the movie, is the pacing. And I think that was a big problem with Rise of Skywalker. Even though it's 3 hours, the pacing of it all just kind of felt rushed.
Oh, it was breakneck, man. Once you started focusing on one thing, they hit you with something else, and they hit you with something else. And I think a lot of that was the criticism of the slower pace of The Last Jedi. And I think they wanted to get that adventure thing going again.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the other thing to it as well is that I think they were trying to connect everything and they needed to hurry. They didn't want to belabor the moment because the movie was already going to be 3 hours anyway. If they went any slower with certain pieces, now you're looking at 3.5 hour movie, which no one really wants to sit through. So, I think they were trying to just get to the main points kind of quickly, but I think that kind of
it unquestionably suffered for it. And I mean, the other thing is, see, I thought Solo had a really good pacing.
It did.
It was kind of that swashbuckling adventure kind of feel, but it didn't feel rushed. And they paused on certain beats, which I thought was pretty cool, actually. It's funny. I gotta actually watch The Rise of Skywalker again. It's been a minute. Actually, it's been a minute since I watched any of those three.
I can understand why.
Well, the other part of it, too, is being that we're doing this show twice a week, it's like, got to watch Visions. There was the Mandalorian that we were always keeping up on, and the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot to do. So, yeah, this is a good episode. Now, it's going to be interesting because I know Ronaldo said the 7th episode is his favorite, I think. I think this is his second favorite. So, Ronaldo, of course, you can chat in and correct us if we're wrong, but I think episode 5, The Ninth Jedi, was Ronaldo's second favorite episode, 7 being his favorite. But, we're doing episode 6. So we'll have to see, will this goodwill that we have now towards Visions, will it last? Or will it be temporarily derailed until we get to episode 7? You're just going to have to watch us next Monday at 8 o'clock to find out. And then, of course, this Friday at 8, we'll be streaming live, as we usually do. And it looks like, so far, we're going to cover Disney Plus Day. Because they're going to undoubtedly announce a bunch of stuff related to Star Wars on Friday. There's rumors, like what we talked about on last Friday's show. If you guys missed last Friday's show, make sure to check it out and get caught up to speed. But we think there's a strong possibility they may drop an Obi-Wan trailer. We don't know if it's a teaser trailer or a full-blown trailer, but there's going to probably be maybe some trailer that will probably drop. If they do, then we're going to do exactly what we did with
Book of Boba Fett.
The Book of Boba Fett. Yeah, so you're not going to want to miss that. Now, as it relates to episode 6, Ronaldo says for episode 6, I'll just say this. I have a bad feeling about this. Uh-oh. Well,
sounds like Bantapudu to me.
Well, you know what? Sometimes the episodes where we're trashing on the show are just as much fun, if not more, than the ones that we like. So, we'll just have to see. But, yeah, I think that you guys are definitely not going to want to miss then our show next week when we review episode 6. Remember, like I said, we're going to cover Disney Plus Day this Friday. If a trailer drops, we will do a reaction video, just like what we did with the Book of Boba Fett. If you didn't see that one, make sure you check that one out. And hey, while you're watching all this content, don't forget to hit that like button. When you hit that like button, it actually puts us a little bit higher in the algorithm, puts us in front of more people, so that's a good thing. And then, of course, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. We've got other content that we're slowly putting out, and, of course, you can join us every Monday and Friday at 8 o'clock for our live stream. So until this Friday, I guess that's going to do it. So before we actually close, though, give me some final thoughts on this episode.
Final thoughts on the Ninth Jedi. Like I said, it's great. Love the story. Love the.
That's it. It's just great.
Yeah, it's a great story. Great action. It felt like Star Wars. It gave me some High Republic vibes to it. I really enjoyed the characters. I actually wanted to see more or a continuation of this particular storyline. This is actually felt like a missing Clone Wars or a Rebels episode or something like that. So
yeah,
I was really impressed by this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to echo those sentiments, not just because I'm lazy, but because I happen to agree with them. It's one of those things where I, too, would love to see a continuation of these characters, more storylines with this particular world. So far, this is the favorite one that I've seen so far, obviously. I'll reserve my judgment for episode 7, but thus far, I got to say I really liked them. And as the episodes have progressed, I've liked them more and more. Now, we're going to see, when we see episode 6, might be a little bit of a bump in the road, but yeah, I thought this is a great episode, and if this is where Visions can go for a possible second season, I'm on board. So with that, I think we're going to close out the show, and obviously we're looking forward to seeing you guys Friday. Dwight's saying I'm saying nothing, so that scares me a little bit about episode 6. But
oh boy,
join us Friday when we talk about Disney Plus Day, and with that, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.